I made a promise to the American people. If I were elected president, I would find the very best judge in the country for the Supreme Court. I am a man of my word. I will do as I say, something that the American people have been asking for from Washington for a very, very long time.
Well, activists on the left were planning to protest President Trump's choice well before it was actually made, before there was any name. Now, a great pulsating blob of humanity has gathered on the steps of the Supreme Court here in Washington to denounce Judge Gorsuch and demand his rejection. Marge Baker is a spokeswoman for People for the American Way, and she joins us from the steps of the Supreme Court, where she is protesting as we speak. Marge, thanks a lot for coming on.
Is that right?
Thank you so much for having me, and I really appreciate the opportunity to speak to you and your viewers. It's great to be here.
Oh, well, thanks. Well, I'm glad to hear from you. So you've been planning this for some time. I got the press release, and you didn't know who the president's pick was going to be, but you believed it was going to be, quote, extreme. If it had been, I don't know, someone on the left, if Michael Moore had been the nominee, would you still be protesting because he was Trump's choice?
We looked at the list of proposed nominees that Trump gave us, and we did our thorough research, and we were really concerned about any of those nominees. So we were not out here to protest anyone. We were out here to protest someone who was chosen from that list, about whom we had real concerns. I mean, the decision, the reason we're here tonight is because it makes a big, big difference to the American people who fills this lifetime seat on the Supreme Court. And we do need somebody who respects the Constitution and the law and understands that they're there to protect all Americans, not just the powerful and the wealthy and the corporations. And unfortunately, Neil Gorsuch is not the right man for this job.
I think Judge Gorsuch's record, he spent a decade on the Court of Appeals being faithful to the Constitution, following the law, demonstrating judicial humility, and not legislating from the bench. And I think that's exactly what the president promised the American people. It's what we expect in a Supreme Court justice. You know, something he said tonight, Judge Gorsuch, was very important. Any judge that agrees with the outcome of every case he decides is probably a bad judge. You know, a judge's job is not to pick which litigant you like better or pick which outcome or policy you like. It's to follow the law. And I've spent this week and last week reading many of Judge Gorsuch's opinions, and I think it reflects exactly that humility and fidelity to law that makes him a worthy successor to Justice Scalia.
We have real concerns about his record, and so real concerns about whether he will have the independence and the judicial temperament to be a justice for all the people.
Why do you believe that? I mean, what specific decisions are you referring to?
Well, let's take the Hobby Lobby case, for example. You may know this case. It came out of the 10th Circuit, came out of a panel that Judge Gorsuch sat on. And this was the case that said that corporations are allowed to use religious liberty, their own religious liberty, as a reason to discriminate against women in terms of their being able to access contraception coverage. That's a really serious concern for a lot of women. And it's not just that it hurts women, but that principle that a corporation can justify its actions based on some false notion that it has rights, religious liberty rights that can be, the exercise of which can be offended, is really, really troubling, because it has sweeping ramifications, not just for women, it has sweeping ramifications for LGBTQ people. So we're concerned about that. We're concerned
so you
about
don't, I mean, you don't believe that employers ought to be allowed to stand on their religious principles in the way that they act?
We don't believe corporations have the ability to exercise religious liberty.
You know, Donald Trump said that he was going to drain the swamp when he came into office, and Gorsuch believes that campaign contributions of unlimited quantities are a fundamental human right, and that we should all have the right to bribe politicians as much as we want. Now, I'm a political consultant. I benefit if that law is in place, but that doesn't make it right.
You know, let's have an adult conversation here. I don't think he said bribing politicians is a human right. There's an adult debate over whether expressing your political views extends to giving money to political figures to espouse their views. And that's not a small thing. That gets to the heart of what the First Amendment means. You may disagree with people on the other side, but it doesn't mean they're for bribing politicians. And by the way, as you know, you just supported a candidate who raised twice the money of Donald Trump. So, I mean, let's not get partisan and stupid here.
I believe that Judge Gorsuch is likely to follow in the pattern of Justice Scalia, following the law, vigorously defending the Bill of Rights, our fundamental liberties, whether religious liberty, whether the Second Amendment, whether our basic rights protected under the Constitution.
If you look at the record of Gorsuch compared to the record of Scalia, Gorsuch has a background of, prior to his service in the judiciary, being something of a partisan political figure. I mean, his work in the Bush administration, his mother was a partisan political figure before him. So this is not a guy who's come from a background of purely scholarly legal inquiry. This is a guy whose background has largely been service to one political party.
So should we hold, as a general matter, people responsible for the actions of their parents?
I think that if someone's parents commit crimes the way that his mother is accused of committing, then maybe they shouldn't be nominated for the Supreme Court unless they answer some pretty basic questions. I mean, what did he know? When did he know it? And does he think what his mom did is wrong?
Do you believe in collective punishment? So, like, if someone commits a crime, that his family ought to be implicated in it too? I mean, I thought we judge people on what they do and say as individuals.
He's being nominated to the Supreme Court of the United States of America, the most important judicial body in the history of the world. And frankly, you know, the fact that the first time his last name started appearing in the news was the fact that his mother was implicated in one of the largest ranging scandals of the 80s is a problem and something that should answer.
This guy's been on the court for over 10 years. You haven't said word one about it. He passed unanimously.
You look at his record that favors Wall Street and corporations. He believes that he makes it very difficult. His jurisprudence
what
makes
record?
it very.
I mean, what are you talking about specifically?
His record as a judge that argues that individuals and entities that want to hold corporations accountable cannot get their day in court to do that.
Can you give me an example of that?
The record of the Hobby Lobby case. There's a number of cases where he's argued that people should not have class action remedies. He's said that
where did he say that?
In his judicial record, in his writings,
he doesn't believe in any class action remedies?
There's a real concern about whether he believes people should be limited in terms of their ability to access use class actions as a way in which to hold corporations accountable, and it's a really serious concern.
Where did he say? I mean, I think you went to Yale Law School, so I know you have the details here. What are they?
I'm not going to go through case names for you, but
just help us here. Understand what you're saying.
Go to our website, pfal.org, and you'll be able to see cases where he demonstrates that and so we have really serious concerns about whether or not he will be have the judgment and the
I got it. I just was hoping for some specifics.
Well, I'm ecstatic over this, Tucker. He is probably the most worthy jurist in the country to fill the shoes of Antonin Scalia for a couple of reasons. One is a healthy skepticism about the ability of the government to regulate the economy and to regulate our personal lives. I'm so sorry that your prior guest really didn't know what she was talking about. She should welcome somebody like Neil Gorsuch because he interpreted the First Amendment to mean what it says. Congress shall make no law interfering with the free exercise of religion, whether it's a mom and pop operation or a corporation or a bigger corporation. You were exactly right. The government can't force you to give a benefit to your employee when the giving of that benefit violates your religious beliefs and when the employee can get the benefit elsewhere. And the Supreme Court upheld that decision of Judge Gorsuch. So that's the small picture that I'm happy about. The big picture is Judge Gorsuch, as you know, Tucker, you and I have talked about this, embraces the idea of originalism, which simply means the meaning of the Constitution was fixed at the time it was ratified, and it's only been changed each time it was amended 27 times. And if it's going to be changed again, the states have to amend it. The court can't amend it. So it's not what Justice Ginsburg thinks it is, a living, breathing document that changes when the politicians need the change.
What's interesting is that originalists tend to take a pretty dim view of executive orders because the Constitution, of course, specifies that the Congress makes the laws, not the executive. And I wonder, since the last several presidents have relied pretty heavily on them, including this one, if there are implications in that.
Well, there would be implications in that if the executive orders are tantamount to making the law. For example, when Barack Obama issued a series of executive orders, there's actually 24 of them, affecting immigration, a trial judge in Texas ruled this is not the president telling the Department of Homeland Security how to enforce the law. This is the president changing a law in a way that the Congress specifically rejected.
That's right.
That was upheld by the United States Court of Appeals for the Fifth Circuit in New Orleans, and then the Supreme Court split on it in a 4-4 tie, which basically upheld what the Fifth Circuit said.
The guy's been a federal judge for 10 years, and I haven't heard a single complaint about him. Have you?
No, and I hadn't heard a single complaint about Merrick Garland, and yet the Republicans refused to give the man a vote for an entire year.
I'm not going to defend that.
You know, at a certain point, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. Well, where were you a year ago? Where were you a year ago on that issue?
Actually, I was never for that. I think they should have given him a hearing. I think you should hear what people have to say.
Did you speak out against it?
No, I did. And I certainly didn't attack his parents.
No, thank you.
We're out of time. Thanks.